During a latest podcast episode, Meghan Markle lamented the stark difference in treatment women seeking to explore their own sexuality received compared to their male counterparts. On the other hand, her podcast voice was savaged by royal critics. Meghan Markle tackled the issue of living outside the labels we're given by society in the latest instalment of a podcast Archetypes. Titled Beyond the Archetype, Human Being, Markle was joined by Sex and the City author Candice Bushell and trans actress Michaela J. Rodriguez. Markle focused part of the talk on the concept of slut-shaming and hit out at the double standards facing women seeking to explore their sexual side. I don't understand what it is about the stigma surrounding women and their sexuality and the exploration of their sexuality that is so much more vilified than for a man, she said. As you're getting older, you're exploring and starting to understand your sensuality, your feminine, divine, your sexuality. Oftentimes, it can be very much used against you, she said. A man, if he's a player, out having fun or whatever he's doing, it's often celebrated, even heralded, she said. But for a woman, I don't care if she's perhaps the most successful woman in finance in her mid-50s. I promise you, someone will still go. But she was such a slut in college. Markle said the idea of a woman's sexual journey will stick with her like glue. However, YouTubers, according to Taz and HG Tudor, claim Meghan's voice sounds like a phone sex worker on a podcast. All the little giggles and moans and whispers, it's so over the top and so overacted. And a blind item on Crazy Days and Nights said, if you think the accent on the podcast is bad, you should see the illiterate one in action in town. It comes on heavy, and for only being country a short while, she sure does have a lot of aristocratic mannerisms and interactions with people. Most people she encounters are treated as socially inferior to her, as only the royal system does. According to Jordan Peterson, Meghan's voice drips with falsehood. Peterson analysed Markle in an audio clip where Meghan talks about women being called crazy. The first thing I make of it is her voice drips with the same falsehood that the voice of Kamala Harris drips with. It's this sanctimonious, faux compassionate talking down to our audience and trying to be sure that we're all really on the same compassionate page here and we're all being victimized by terrible forces that are arrayed against us, and none of that's really fair. And it just grates on me. As for Hartley Brewer, she prefaced Meghan's clip by declaring, once again, this is my regular apology to my lovely viewers and listeners. We're going to play you a brief excerpt. I'm apologising in advance, just put the kettle on and make sure it boils really, really loudly while this is on. But wait, there's more. Pundit Jesus Enrique Rosas also thinks Meghan's podcast voice is simply off. Accordingly, he says it doesn't sound like her and compares her podcast voice to Elizabeth Holmes's deep speaking voice. Rosas believes Meghan's podcasting voice sounds so deep because she's trying to sound authoritative. He says she could possibly be using the podcast as a launchpad for a political career. Rosas added, that must be one of the reasons her podcasting voice sounds like that, full, deep, because that's something we automatically relate to someone that is powerful and commanding. Who knows what they're doing? That's the exact same reason Elizabeth Holmes faked a deep voice to scam half of a country.